Hello! This is the story of a man who survived one of the most brutal drug wars in Dutch history, a conflict that spanned over a decade. It all started with a missing shipment of cocaine worth $5 million, but what happened next was beyond anyone's wildest imagination. This man wasn't just a key figure in the war. He might have been the one who ignited a wave of unprecedented violence. The story behind it is even more complex. He's accused of being the mastermind behind the mysterious disappearance of a man who remains missing to this day. And it doesn't stop there. He's also believed to have orchestrated the kidnapping of the brother of Belgium's most notorious drug lord, a bold move to exact revenge and consolidate power. These accusations are far from trivial, but what's the truth behind all this? This is the story of Hussein 8S. Hussein, also known by the nickname The Mayor, was born in 1979 in Amsterdam, growing up in the crime-ridden areas of the city. From a young age, Hussein was drawn into a life of crime, committing a series of offenses along with other kids from the neighborhood. Initially, it was just petty thefts, but soon their group evolved into organized crime on a larger scale. Hussein entered the drug smuggling world alongside his friends Gwinnett Martha and Najeb Bubu. They started off dealing in ecstasy and then moved on to cocaine, a highly profitable but extremely dangerous commodity. Life seemed perfect at that time with money flowing in and everything going smoothly, but in 2007, Gwinnett, the leader of the group, was arrested. While Gwinnett was in prison, Hussein and Najeb continued to run the organization. In May 2008, Gwinnett made a daring escape from prison and fled to Morocco, where he hid in Hussein's house before escaping to Belgium. However, in 2010, Gwinnett was arrested again, and this time, he made a decision that would change the entire game, a decision that led to a decade of violence and death, claiming over 20 lives. Constant clashes with the law made it difficult for Gwinnett to effectively run the organization. He decided to hand over leadership to Najeb Bubu while waiting for his chance to regain control. This decision infuriated Hussein, who felt betrayed by the man he had trusted after all he had done for Gwinnett. Angry and frustrated, Hussein decided to leave the organization and start his own path with his brother-in-law, Benouf A. In 2012, Gwinnett returned, and although the rift between them remained unresolved, Hussein still arranged a cocaine shipment with Gwinnett. They were no longer friends, just business partners with a single goal: is money. A 200-kilogram shipment of cocaine was scheduled to arrive at a port in the UK, but fate took a different turn. The shipment reached the port as expected, but then mysteriously vanished without a trace. Suspicion and tension escalated, pushing both sides into a spiral of distrust and confrontation. Instead of resolving the issue peacefully, everything escalated, fueling a bloody conflict that lasted a decade. The war erupted fiercely when Najeb, the man Gwinnett chose to replace Hussein, was assassinated in Antwerp. From there, a true nightmare unfolded, with over 20 people losing their lives in an unprecedented wave of violence in the underworld. On October 18, 2012, a death order was allegedly issued by Hussein and Benouf, marking the beginning of a series of bloody events. Shortly after, Hussein disappeared from Amsterdam, constantly fleeing between Morocco and Panama. The death of Najeb, Gwinnett's loyal associate, not only marked a significant turning point, but also sparked an endless cycle of revenge. Both sides harbored an intense desire for retribution, and no one could feel safe. Amidst this storm of violence, one event stood out, making everything more brutal than ever before. The first act of vengeance occurred at the doorstep of Feyrouz Lounge, a popular shisha bar that was not only a gathering place for Hussein and his gang, but also a symbol of the organization's underground power. On March 9, 2016, a severed human head was placed in front of the bar, its eyes seemingly staring through the windows inside. That horrifying image was etched into the minds of those involved, serving as an unforgettable warning of the cruelty of this war. Imagine this happened 4 years after the cocaine shipment went missing. Everything had truly spiraled into uncontrollable chaos. While Amsterdam was engulfed in turmoil, Hussein remained at a distance, far away from the authorities' reach. However, that didn't mean he had stopped his drug trafficking activities. The cocaine smuggling world is filled with brutality, where even a small mistake can lead to disaster, as we've seen from the 200 kilograms shipment that went missing in 2012. In 2016, Hussein was drawn into another shocking act of revenge stemming from a failed shipment. It all began in June 2015 when Hussein received a 320 kilograms shipment of cocaine from South America to a port in the UK. He entrusted a Belgian contact, Van Fouad Abbas Tot George, with the task of retrieving the cocaine from the containers and distributing it to secret warehouses. On June 19, 2015, the shipment arrived at the UK port and Abbas Tot George's team quickly extracted the cocaine from the container. Everything seemed to be going smoothly, but in reality, the shipment had been under police surveillance all along. The police waited patiently, monitoring every move, and eventually tracked them to the parking lot of the City Inn Hotel in Borgerhout. There, they caught Abbas Tot George and his two accomplices in the act of receiving the goods and stuffing them into the trunk of a car. At that moment, the police stormed in and arrested them all. Hussein was furious when he learned that his shipment worth over 10 million euros had been confiscated. That's when the real trouble began for Abbas Tot George. Although he was only detained for a short time, but upon his release, he quickly realized that Hussein had no intention of letting this matter slide. Hussein demanded that Abbas Tot George repay the enormous sum, issuing a chilling warning. "You received the shipment, so you have to pay." However, Abbas Tot George refused, arguing that the situation was beyond his control and not his fault. For months, Hussein kept pressuring Abbas Tot George, but he remained defiant. Angered and losing patience, Hussein began direct attacks, shooting at multiple houses connected to Abbas Tot George. Even in the face of violence, Abbas Tot George stubbornly refused to pay. Finally, Hussein decided to take more drastic action by planning to kidnap Abbas Tot George. However, this plan had to be put on hold when Hussein was arrested in Morocco. It was the fake passport he was carrying that caught the attention of border authorities, leading to his detention. It is believed that Hussein had come from his hideout in Central America, where he had been evading capture for a long time. Upon his arrest, Moroccan police searched two of Hussein's private properties in Marrakech, uncovering a treasure trove that included 34 luxury watches, 10 mobile phones, 2 tablets, 16,000 euros in cash, and 10 fake passports. This was just the tip of the iceberg, revealing a glimpse into the complex and ruthless underground life Hussein was leading. Dutch authorities were elated upon hearing the news of Hussein's arrest, hoping that Morocco would extradite him back to the Netherlands. Hussein was not only the prime suspect in a series of violent incidents shaking Amsterdam, but also had a pending 244-day suspended sentence for severe assaults committed in Amsterdam in 2002 and 2008, making him the target of an international arrest warrant. However, Morocco has a policy of not extraditing its citizens, which meant that the hope of bringing Hussein back to the Netherlands was almost entirely dashed. In response, the Netherlands requested that Morocco prosecute Hussein for identity fraud and enforce the remaining 244 days of his suspended sentence. This move was not only aimed at ensuring that Hussein served his punishment, but also at prolonging his detention to allow time for building a more serious case, possibly involving drug trafficking and even orchestrating murders in the violent Amsterdam drug war. On August 20th, 2015, Hussein ATS was sentenced to only 4 months in prison for identity fraud, leaving Dutch law enforcement deeply disappointed. The Moroccan judge did not address the 244 days of Hussein's unserved sentence. Upon completing his sentence, Hussein was released, leaving Dutch authorities empty-handed. He immediately resumed his grand plan to kidnap Abbas Tot George. Hussein did not hesitate to recruit 4 notorious gangsters from Paris to carry out this mission. For months, this group secretly tracked Abbas Tot George's every move, placing a tracking device under his car and constantly surveilling both his home and his mother's house. where Abbas taught George frequently visited. In mid-July 2016, Antwerp's underworld was thrown into chaos when Abbas taught George went missing for 5 days with no one, not even his wife or associates, having any idea of his whereabouts. In reality, Hossein had ordered the Parisian gangsters to act on July 7, 2016. They successfully kidnapped Abbas taught George and immediately held him captive in an apartment in Brussels. To prove that Abbas taught George was in their custody, the kidnappers placed his passport in the mailbox of his closest associate. They also sent a voice recording to his wife in which Abbas taught George said, "I am still alive. This is not a joke. Follow their instructions." Soon after, another recording was sent, this time with the chilling voice of an unknown man. "Do not go to the police or we will kill him." Initially, Hossein demanded a ransom of 10 million euros, equivalent to the value of the failed cocaine shipment, but after tense negotiations, the amount was reduced to 5 million euros. In the end, Abbas taught George's group could only gather 1.6 million euros in cash at that moment. To show their sincerity, they handed over the money to Hossein and promised that the rest would be delivered. However, things did not go as expected. All communication between the kidnappers and Abbas taught George's people suddenly ceased. Anxiety grew as they began to suspect whether Abbas taught George was still alive, especially when the kidnappers refused to negotiate further on the exchange of money and the hostage. Rumors began to spread rapidly. Some said Abbas taught George had been killed and his body dissolved in acid in Amsterdam, while others claimed he had been buried in the Sahara Desert. But whatever the truth, the fate of Abbas taught George remains a mystery. Even more terrifying is that this kidnapping was not the only act allegedly orchestrated by Hossein. Just 4 months later, on November 15th, 2016, another man, who had just left the Basic Fit gym in Antwerp, became the victim of a brutal kidnapping. Surveillance cameras captured the moment he approached his car when a van suddenly pulled up beside him. A group of men jumped out, seized him within seconds, and sped away, leaving no trace of his whereabouts for 5 days. Unexpectedly, a man named Othman LB contacted the Antwerp police, claiming that his younger brother Younes had been kidnapped, and that he had managed to get in touch with the kidnappers. The kidnappers demanded a large ransom, plunging everyone into a new nightmare. Othman did not hesitate to identify the mastermind behind this audacious kidnapping. It was none other than Hossein. For those unfamiliar, Othman LB is not just any name, he is one of the biggest drug lords in Belgium. Starting from extracting cocaine from containers at the port of Antwerp, Othman cleverly turned this into an opportunity to build his empire. Instead of receiving cash, he demanded to be paid in cocaine, a bold but incredibly smart move. Othman obtained cocaine at the base price from South America, ranging from $2,000 to $6,000 per kilogram. However, everyone knew that once this shipment safely reached the port of Antwerp, its value could skyrocket to $25,000 per kilogram or even higher. By selling the cocaine himself, Othman made enormous profits and quickly rose to the top of the underworld. Othman's empire grew stronger, and no one wanted to miss the chance to join his winning team. Currently, Othman is probably the richest drug smuggler in Belgium, but on paper, he is merely a businessman specializing in luxury watches and real estate investments in Dubai. If you want to learn more about Othman's life and career, don't miss the video on my channel. It's truly a fascinating story. Back to the case, Othman continued to provide the police with crucial information about Hossein and his network, even knowing the serial number of the BlackBerry PGP phone Hossein was using. Meanwhile, Younes, Othman's brother, was being held at a secret location somewhere in Brussels. After weeks of captivity, Younes was moved to Paris. Throughout this time, Othman remained in Dubai, continuously providing valuable information to the Antwerp police. After 37 days in captivity, Younes finally managed to escape. According to reports, he used a spoon to pry open his handcuffs, tied sheets together, and climbed out of a window to freedom. But is this story credible, or did Othman quietly pay the ransom? Rumors on the street suggested that Othman had paid several million euros, gold, or several kilograms of cocaine, or perhaps even luxury watches to save his brother. However, Othman firmly denied this. Othman asserted, "The stories about me paying a ransom in cash, gold, or cocaine are absurd. My brother escaped from the apartment in Paris on his own. After Younes was rescued, the investigation gained momentum rapidly. On January 24, 2017, 4 Frenchmen, Hassin S., Mohamed Kanouté, Abu Sako, and Rachid Belarbi, were arrested in Amsterdam. They were the prime suspects in the kidnapping of Abbas Tot George Balker." Younes recognized Abu's voice and recalled him saying, "We've done this before," clearly referring to the kidnapping of Abbas Tot George. During an interrogation, Mohammed coldly stated, "If two groups in the underworld have an issue with each other, they will sit down together until the problem is resolved. That's not kidnapping." This was clearly a dangerously understated interpretation. However, the most substantial evidence linking Hussein to the kidnapping emerged when Adil El Monti was arrested. Younes identified Adil El Monti as the person who brought him food while he was held captive, but Adil's role seemed to be much deeper. According to the police, Adil was in direct contact with Hussein. During a search of Younes' apartment, the police discovered a Romanian passport with Hussein's photo along with several other passport photos of him. In Adil's PGP phone, the police found Hussein listed in the contacts. Additionally, Adil's apartment contained several expensive watches, which investigators believe were part of the ransom Othman paid to Hussein to save his brother. This would make sense given Othman's reputation as a luxury watch dealer in Dubai. However, the biggest question is why Hussein kidnapped Othman's brother in the first place. To find the answer, we need to go back to a fateful day, May 22nd, 2014. That was the day Gwinnett Martha was shot 80 times after leaving a restaurant in Amsterdam. With his death, Hussein's biggest rival was eliminated. This was a significant blow, and it was believed that Hussein, along with his brother-in-law Benouf, had won and ended this bloody conflict. For months, the underworld in the Netherlands and Belgium was enveloped in a stifling atmosphere, waiting to see who would step up to fill the massive void Gwinnett left in the cocaine smuggling market. Gwinnett had controlled a large portion of the market, and with his death, this lucrative pie was up for grabs. Many speculated that Hussein would quickly take over this market share, and Hussein himself might have thought so too. But things didn't go as planned. Those who had previously worked under Hussein began to show disloyalty and no longer followed him. Instead of continuing to work with Hussein, they turned to Othman, whose name was rapidly rising in the smuggling scene. Everyone wants to join the winning side, and at that moment, Othman was the brightest star. Hussein started to face difficulties using the port of Antwerp as he had before. Othman and other Belgian gangs strategically sidelined him, slowly strangling Hussein's operations. Hussein's shipments were constantly being intercepted, and in the rare case that one got through, he had to pay huge commissions to insiders at the port who extracted the cocaine from containers for him, leaving Hussein's profits pitifully depleted. In this underworld, everything revolves around loyalty, something Hussein was severely lacking. Although Gwinnett was from Amsterdam, he maintained strong relationships with powerful groups in Antwerp. He was a respected figure there, having once taken refuge in Belgium after escaping from prison with the help of friends from Antwerp, but Hussein was different. He was merely a businessman, lacking any respect from the Belgians. These groups chose to build relationships with Othman, a local from Antwerp, rather than working with Hussein from Amsterdam, a logical decision when considering the benefits for both sides. One informed source stated, "Whenever Hussein wanted to do business at the port, he would try to recruit some guys from Borgerhout, Antwerp. However, they always demanded extremely high profit percentages to cooperate, and most of the shipments failed." These continuous failures led South American cocaine suppliers to turn their backs on Hussein and switch to working with Othman, a stable and trouble-free partner. Without a doubt, the main reason Othman's brother Younes was kidnapped was as an act of revenge by Hussein. It was his way of retaliating, because Othman had seized the market that Gwinnett left behind, pushing Hussein out of the game or at least making it difficult for him to maintain his position. Hussein might be one of the few remaining figures from the bloody conflict in the Netherlands that began in 2012. Others have been buried or imprisoned. The number of those who survived this war is very small, and it seems that after nearly a decade, everything has ended. In 2019, Hussein had a brief conversation with a Dutch crime journalist after the journalist reported that he had disappeared. He said, "That's fake news. I'm still in Morocco doing my thing. No one is looking for me." But is anyone still hunting Hussein? The answer remains a mystery because he is allegedly involved in too many incidents. We still have to use the word allegedly, because so far, Hussein is only a suspect in all the mentioned cases and has not been convicted of any crimes, from the murders in Amsterdam to drug smuggling to the kidnapping of Abbas Tot George or Younes. The lingering question is, will Hussein ever set foot in Amsterdam again? That seems highly unlikely. Will he continue to operate in the underworld after being checkmated by Othman? That's the question we'll end this story with, and perhaps we'll never know the answer. What do you think of this story? Leave your thoughts in the comments below so everyone can see. Don't forget to like and subscribe to support me. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.